Honestly, I don't know how to start the video again.
So, hello again everyone! This is another showcase video about my add-on updates. As you may know, I have several projects on the forum that you can play with right now. But some of them are outdated, have bugs, and frankly, I don't like their visuals. That's why I decided to remake and update them. In this video, you will see new versions of abilities called Ice Discs, Ice Shots, and Flame Lunge. I wanted to do this even earlier, but someone is making me work hard on his server, so I just didn't have enough time. But now, in 3 days, I've rewritten 3 abilities. So, let's get started. The first reworked ability is Ice Discs. The first thing I'd like to talk about is the old version of the ability. It was quite well done. It was one of my first experiences with display blocks at the time. One downside is that when I played on servers with this ability, I noticed buggy display blocks everywhere. It's really sad that I didn't implement protection against this. Also, the ability animations themselves are very jerky and jagged, which is quite unsightly. I fixed these bugs, improved animations and mechanics, and even added a new variation of the ability. But before we move on to the new version, it's worth looking at a reference that will help us understand the concept of the ability. As you know, ProjectKorra abilities always reference the animated series Avatar, The Last Airbender. This ability is no exception. Let's look at a clip from one episode that showcases this ability. Yeah, it's a pretty interesting ability. Let's see how I updated it in-game. By the way, the place where I will show is right behind me on the mountain, so I need to climb there first.
Hey bro, you got a phone call. Hey bro, you got a phone call.
Anyway, here I am. To create an ice cube like in the previous version, you can simply hold down the Shift key while looking at the water source, and it will start growing. You can already see that the growth animation is much smoother than in the previous version. Also, the type of ice on the discs depends on the type of ice they were created on. That is, the creation is on regular ice, and the discs will visually be made of regular ice. And the same will happen on packed ice and blue ice. Also, the ice block now works like a physics block. So it's still a display block. I'm just simulating the code's interaction with water and gravity. And here's what the discs themselves look like. Their rotations and movements are now very smooth and beautiful. The effects are also more appropriate and discrete than in the previous version. Even gravity makes the discs rotate downwards. Just like in the previous version, when the discs fly out of range, the player loses control of them, and they simply fall to the ground and shatter. Now, if a disc hits a wall, it simply bounces off. This will help create more twisted disc attacks that can hit a target from almost anywhere. Even now, disc controllability can be configured in the config. The player will no longer be able to control discs freely unless it's specified in the config. But more on those settings later. For now, let's talk about a new variation of this ability. This variation will help in situations where there are no sources of water, ice, or snow nearby. With this variation, you can draw moisture from vegetation and form a disc block from it. This variation is unlikely to be useful in fast-paced fights, and it's strange that such a variation exists for such an unimportant ability. In any case, I think this variation would add more fun and variety to combat. In any case, you can always customize this variation to suit your needs in the config. This variation would be easy to make faster, but I prefer showiness over practicality. Let's now talk about the new mechanic of this ability. Before showing the updated version of the discs, I deliberately mentioned the reference for this ability. You see, in this clip, you can see that the discs can be parried. This wasn't possible with the old version of the discs, but now it's possible. To do this, simply sneak and click while looking at the disc. It will then be deflected from its current trajectory, and the creator will no longer be able to control it. For demonstration purposes, I've increased the collisions for this attack, but in-game deflection will be quite difficult. Also, returning to the variation, it's worth paying attention to the water streams. They interact with biomes and can change color depending on the player's location. And the ice block also has an interesting splash animation when falling from a fairly large height. Let's now see what can be changed in the config. Here you can configure the ability information, specifying the range of the water source. Regarding the variation, we can turn it off. Specify the radius, the number of absorbed streams to form a block, the interval between water pickups in milliseconds, and the speed of the streams. The speed at which dried plants return to their original state, as well as how precisely the water flow will reach the point, determines the rate at which the water will flow. The lower the value, the greater the deviation in the flow direction. We can also prohibit or allow the removal of discs from the water. Of course, you can adjust the number of discs, as well as the radius after which ability will remove. Disc block formation speed and cooldown. We can change the disc's damage, range, collision size, knockback on impact, speed, controllability, cooldown on firing, interactions with other abilities such as parrying, or whether the disc can be destroyed by one of these abilities. We also allow the player to deflect the discs themselves. That's about all that can be said about this update. Among other things, the ability was renamed from ice discs to ice discs. This change doesn't change anything in essence, but it will make it easier to see which version of the add-on the server is using. The code itself has also been changed. Technically, the ability was completely rewritten from scratch, but in reality, it's simply an update. It's also worth noting that I've recently completely abandoned writing code using the Spigot API library and switched to the Paper API due to a more modern approach to coding. Of course, when writing abilities, Paper API features like the Adventure API for working with text and other cool stuff, or the Brigadier API for writing commands are rarely used. In any case, if your server doesn't support Paper plugins, it's best to refrain from installing my add-ons. Okay, let's move on to the next ability, Ice Shots. First, let's briefly review the previous version of the ability. This ability is the newest of our trio. Its code is quite well written. The only thing I don't like is the particles around the ring. I used to like them, but now they look out of place. Also, the ability appears immediately after performing a combo, which doesn't make sense. Otherwise, the ability is pretty basic, but quite good. Now, just like with the Ice Discs ability, let's look at the reference from the cartoon.
Wait. Zahir.
Yeah, it's a very impressive and flashy ability. Now let's look at how I updated it in the game. Now, if I use the combination, a ring of water won't immediately appear around me. First, a stream of water will flow from the source toward me. Only then will the ring of water begin to form. The ring's core animations remain largely unchanged. However, the ring's particles are now much more subtle and almost invisible. I honestly have no idea why you need this feature, but the water ring can cut grass, so you literally become a walking lawnmower. With this trick, you can even cut out different shapes from plants. I think you'll definitely find a use for this trick. The projectile ice now starts in the correct location, and the bullets themselves now have a more elongated shape, making them more iconic. The effects have also changed, but the idea remains the same. Also, after there are 4 shots or less left, the ring will become thinner and thinner. You can also aim shots now. It's barely noticeable in the default config, but increasing the value will make it more noticeable. Also, the water ring now deals damage and spins the enemy. Also, the water ring is no longer static. If the player is pushed by something, the ring will begin to deflect in the direction of the push. As you may recall, this ability can absorb water manipulation and ice spike. This is also possible in the updated version. But now, the absorption can't happen on either side of the ring. It can only happen where the spinning animation occurs. And the final, and my favorite, change to this combo is that the water ring can now serve as an extender for torrent or water spout. Simply hold down Shift while the water ring is forming, and ice shots will transform into torrent or water spout. That's all the new features for this ability. Now let's move on to the final rework. This is a rework of the Flame Lunge ability. This ability, in turn, has been completely reworked. It's the least popular ability. I haven't seen it on any server yet. It's no longer an ability, but a combo. The combo is a series of attacks with movement. I spent a long time thinking about the reference because the ability wasn't originally based on the cartoon. But after the rework, I realized what it might look like. Let's look at the reference for this ability. Overall, the new Flame Lunge is very similar to this reference. Let's jump right into the updated version. The main difference from the reference is that we start with a small explosion to launch a small forward thrust. After that, we charge up the second attack and release a large fiery explosion that deals damage and knocks back heavily. This is different from the reference, but the idea is similar. I put a lot of effort into the effects and sounds. It's interesting that the pieces of the final explosion initially fly in random directions, but if they hit a block, they bounce off and fly in a different random direction. The lunge also behaves differently depending on the situation. If you're standing on the ground, the lunge will be horizontal, but if you jump before the lunge, it will move in any direction. The initial lunge also deals damage and knocks back. This allows for additional damage. That's all the new features. We've covered the updates for my 3 old add-ons. The GitHub projects and download links will be in the description. And I bid you farewell.